Have you ever watched a mighty figure wield his influence to taunt someone already scarred by life's harsh blows? This tale will linger in your mind right up to the final line, 'cause what started as a vicious chuckle spiraled into something no soul in the village could have foreseen. And before we jump right in, don't forget to hit that like button on this video and subscribe to Bully Breakdown. We deliver these narratives that peel back the layers on prejudice, compassion, and destiny. Oh, and drop a comment below. Where are you listening from today? I'd love to know. Makes this feel like we're all chatting over coffee. In a quaint farming village nestled amid wheat fields and gentle slopes resided Judge Elias Thorne, a fellow both revered and dreaded. He held the sway to resolve quarrels, approve weddings, and deliver verdicts with just a firm tap of his gavel. Folks murmured about him in hushed tones. Some revered his command, others loathed his haughtiness. For Judge Thorne strutted not like a guardian of fairness, but as though he towered over all. He donned a sleek ebony robe, his footwear buffed to a gleam, and his thunderous guffaw could hush a whole gathering. One crisp fall midday, the village green hummed with lively talk. A roving salesman had rolled in, peddling pairings and promises in an age-old custom that plenty deemed old-fashioned, yet it still pulled in eager onlookers. Word was, folks of stature could claim a bride at no cost as a token nod, though scarcely anyone followed through. The affair was all about amusement, a showy display more than a real bond. But Judge Thorne, never one to pass up a chance to parade his clout, mounted the platform. "Choose any bride gratis," the salesman proclaimed with a sly wink, egging on the onlookers' hurrahs. "Let's see what our esteemed judge fancies," the villagers bellowed in eager suspense, figuring Thorne to select the loveliest lass from the lineup. Scores of young women fidgeted there, clad in their finest, gazes brimming with dread and dreams. But Thorne's stare skimmed right over them, until it settled on a figure off to the edge. She wasn't in a fancy gown, nor did she radiate poise. She was Hannah, a soft-spoken Mennonite lass famed for her build, her simple attire, and her shy demeanor. She'd only shown up because her pa had urged her, even though she'd pleaded to stay put. She kept her chin dipped, face flushing hot with embarrassment. The judge's mouth curled into a wicked grin. He raised his arm and jabbed a finger straight her way. "I'll claim the hefty Mennonite girl," he boomed out, his tone thick with scorn. Then he chuckled, a resonant rumble that bounced off the green, backed by the snickers of guys keen to tag along. Hannah's cheeks blazed scarlet as the throng's mean giggles swelled around her. Her fingers shook as she gripped a wrap snugger over her frame. All figured she'd shatter into sobs, bolt and vanish. But Hannah held her ground. She stayed rooted, lids downcast, pulse thumping wild like a hammer in her ribs. Deep down, a storm brewed, shame tore at her spirit. But amid it, a faint spark of resolve flickered. She breathed a quiet prayer, begging the Lord for grit, even as each biting cackle bore down like lead on her back. Her paw shoved through the bunch, his features ashen with wrath and mortification, but before he got to her, "Judge," Thorne barked once more, his pitch laced with phony jest. "What, you reckon I'd snag the fairest bloom? Nah, I'll grab the one nobody craves." His barb sliced deeper than steel, sparking yet another burst of mirth. But in that ocean of sneers and jeering mugs, a handful seemed restless. One bloke especially, lingering at the fringe of the group, balled his hands tight. His stare smoldered, not with derision, but with rage at the wrong he'd have beheld. He was Samuel, a reserved tiller who'd known Hannah from their early days and who harbored a secret in his core he'd never voiced. And as the judge howled and the masses mirrored his meanness, Samuel's determination solidified. He wouldn't allow this to cap off Hannah's story. Hey, real quick, while we're building up to that turning point, smash that like if you're hooked so far, subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments where you listening from today. Your spot might just inspire the next one. The guffaws tumbled like a storm across the village green, rebounding off timber shops and carts. Hannah remained statue still, her focus glued to the soil under her soles, her ticker slamming so fierce she swore it'd crack her open. Each nasty snigger, each leer, each muttered slight pierced her like thorns. She yearned to dissolve, to sink into the earth and fade forever. Yet her stance wouldn't budge, and her spirit, brittle though it was, barred her from scampering off. Judge Thorne, basking in the drama, dipped in exaggerated curtsy to the throng. "Behold, fairness ain't sightless forever. It spots a steal when it spots one," he hollered, his chuckles crashing, his phrases laced with venom. His robe hem whipped as he spun to the salesman, flicking his wrist like brushing off a pest. "Jot it, she's claimed, the plumpest, drabbest ewe in the herd." The masses bellowed anew, but the noise started to fracture. Some tittered awkwardly, uneasy with the spite, while others eyed Hannah with sorrow. And then there were those who averted their sights altogether, dodging the disgrace of a young soul whose sole fault was standing apart. Samuel, poised at the crowd's rim, felt his temper surge. He'd matured close to Hannah's kin's plot. As kids, they'd romped in the meadows, their joy blending with the chirps of evening bugs. But as years piled on, Samuel had observed how folks handled her. Barred from frolics, trailed by murmurs on her strolls, lads scorning where they'd once grinned. And while he'd long cherished her subtle fortitude, he'd lacked the nerve to declare it, till right then, as the judge's hilarity crested, and Hannah's paw at last gained her flank, clasping her limb guardedly, Samuel advanced, his heels clomping on the boards as he ascended the dais, chin firm, gaze fixed on Judge Thorne. The merriment nearby stuttered, bewilderment spreading through the bunch. "That's plenty," Samuel stated solidly, his timbre traveling the green. The throng quieted, jolted by his cut-in. The judge pivoted gradual-like, his grin souring to a scowl. "And who," Thorne drawled with contempt, "bestowed on you leave to pipe up in my spotlight?" Samuel's knuckles whitened at his flanks, but his tone held steady. "I ain't gonna linger and watch you jeer at her. Hannah's worth tenfold every spiteful quip that slipped your lips this day." The quiet was thunderous. The judge batted his lids, thrown for a loop, before squeezing out a scoff. "Worth tenfold, lad, you sightless? Gander at her, she's ample." Samuel bit back sharper now. His pitch rang out to the dazed masses, his ire like a blaze. He faced the villagers, his peepers alight with zeal. "All y'all grasp what she's endured. Y'all have eyed how she's handled. Still she toils fiercer than most blokes here. She bears grace in her soul where others sling only spite, and she grips more honor enduring this shame than you lot do chortling at her expense." The judge's mug contorted in wrath, but Samuel pressed on. He eyed Hannah square, his timbre easing, though it rang true. "Hannah, you merit more than this derision. And if the judge truly figures a fella can snag a bride gratis," he halted, drawing a full breath, his following lines quaking the green to its roots, "then let it fall to me. I'll wed you." Awe-struck inhales burst from the throng. Hannah's peepers flew up, vast with astonishment. Her jaw dropped slack, and even the judge reeled back, briefly muted. "You," Judge Thorne spewed, his mirth curdling to bitter gall, "you, a mud-handed grower, got the gall to buck me?" Samuel edged nearer, locking sights with the judge, his pitch even and cool. "Aye, because affection ain't a trophy to lampoon or a gag to spin, and I'd sooner have Hannah at my flank than all the gems and gold in your vault." The masses detonated, some in stunned mutters, others in misty cheers. Hannah's palms trembled as dampness brimmed her lids. She'd never once in her days felt noticed, felt picked, not until this instant.
The judge's ire warped his features, but the jollity had fled. He caught it in the crowd's stares. The shift had hit. His mean prank had flipped to his own downfall, and Samuel's boldness had sown a kernel in every chest that saw it. Hannah clapped a shaky palm to her mouth, her core flooded. For the first time, the world's vicious howls didn't flatten her, 'cause one soul had quelled them with honesty. But the clash was miles from done. Judge Thorne wasn't one to swallow defeat meekly. His ire was only starting to simmer.
For an instant, the village green locked still, the breeze dense with strain. Samuel's line still loomed like a rumble over the bunch. Hannah quivered there, fisting her wrap, her peepers broad with wonder. No one had ever championed her thus. No one had ever planted themselves twixt her and the mean cackles that had dogged her steps for years. But afore that fragile glow of promise could settle in her breast, Judge Thorne's timber sliced the hush, raw and fuming. "You presume," the judge snarled, his cheeks aflame with ire. He lunged ahead, his dark robe billowing after. "You presume to challenge me afore this village, afore my hall of order." His peepers scorched into Samuel like embers. "Grasp who I am. I can grind you underfoot with a whisper. I can seize your plot, your spread, your very breath. You'll rue this tick of time till your last wretched breath." The throng fidgeted wary-like. Dread ebbed through 'em. Judge Thorne was a force, after all. He gripped claims on soil, levies, reckonings. His warnings rang hollow. Not a chance. Yet Samuel didn't blink. He drew up straighter, his timber serene and sure. "You can rob me of all I've got," Samuel replied, his words solid as rock. "But you'll never rob me of my honor. And you'll never wipe the fact every soul here's witness today, that you're a soul who taunts the blameless and dubs it right." Mumble swelled through the masses. Folks shuffled restless, peeking at each other. A few dipped their heads. For the first go, they weren't truckling alongside the judge. They were doubting him. Thorne's features knotted in rage. But Hannah's paw advanced then, his pitch shattering the strain. "My girl," he uttered, his roughened timber quaking yet firm. "Ain't no punchline. She's shouldered disgrace that was never hers to haul. She's been jeered, overlooked, cast aside, yet she labors tougher than most and lifts prayers for the very hearts that spurn her. If Samuel's got the spine to stand with her, then I'll grant it my nod, and woe to any who jeers her once more." The quiet that trailed was altered now, weightier, guilt-ridden. Many villagers dropped their gazes, dodging Hannah's. The mean merriment that had pealed so bold mere moments back now tasted like bile on their own lips. Hannah's pulse flew as she beheld Samuel. His lines still resonated in her depths. "I'll wed you." She'd never fathomed a soul voicing that, not with honor, not with warmth. Dampness hazed her sight, and ere she could rein it, she edged forth. For the first go, she lifted her timber, not in supplication, but in bold stand. "Judge Thorne," she declared, her pitch crisp and shaky, but bold enough for all to catch. "All my years, sorts like you have eyed me and spied only my frame. You chortled at me like I was zilch, but I ain't zilch. I'm a lady, I'm a child of kin, and I'll soon be a spouse. Not yours, not as a trophy in your vicious sport, but to a fella who beholds me true." Awe sighs swept the throng. Hannah's face scorched, but her peepers blazed. For the first in her life, she watched the judge recoil. Thorne gaped to slap back, but the masses' vibe had flipped. A call pierced from the rear. "She is spot on," another chimed. "Disgrace on you, judge." Then voices piled till the whole green thrummed with rightful rebuke. Thorne, the sort who lorded via dread and drollery, stood isolated now. Samuel stretched for Hannah's palm, and as their digits laced, the throng burst, not in scorn, but in hurrahs. Hardy blokes whooped, dames wept, young'uns clapped. The din flooded the green, rinsing the sourness of instants past. Judge Thorne's mug warped in wrath, but he spied it clear now. The folk weren't his anymore. For the first in his days, his howls held no sway. He wheeled sharp, his heels smacking the slates, and barreled off. His sable robe melted down the lane, trailing nothing but the ring of his own shame. Hannah lingered at the green's heart, her hand in Samuel's, the chain of her belief shimmering at her neck. She sensed the throng's backing warmth, but beyond that, she felt a fresh fire kindling within. Value, poise, promise. Samuel bent near, his timbre hushed for her ears alone.
I stood by every syllable, Hannah. If you'll cake me, I crave you at my side, not from sorrow's pick, but the fondness I've nursed for you all these years." Tears traced Hannah's cacks as she bobbed her head, words failing her. The hurrahs crashed around him, but in that beat only Samuel's timbre counted. And so, the lass who'd been lampooned for her form emerged the dame who muzzled a judge with her grit, her valor, and the devotion that at last claimed her. If this yarn stirred you, if Hannah's boldness sparked even a whisper in you, then here's my plea. Don't skip liking this video and subscribing to Bully Breakdown. 'Cause here, we nudge the globe to remember, no matter how tiny or taunted a soul might seem, their yarn can soar past spite, past might, and past the loudest howls. And to really hype this up, share it with a friend who needs this kind of lift today. Drop your favorite moment in the comments, and let's get this story trending.